You know what they say about the paperwork that saves your career versus the one that ends it? Well, I've written both, sometimes on the same damn day. But the moment I knew Apex Defense Technologies was screwed was when the founder pulled me aside during his retirement party, handed me a warm bourbon, and said, "Tom, you kept the wheels from falling off when nobody was watching." My name's Tom Brennan. I'm 47 years old, and I just spent 9 years making sure this defense contractor didn't accidentally hand military secrets to the wrong people. The old man patted my shoulder like I was some faithful dog he forgot to feed, smiled, and walked away. Inside, that sentence wrapped around my gut like ice because that's exactly what I'd been doing for nearly a decade, keeping everything from flying off the rails. ITAR compliance, export controls, security clearances, the kind of details that when done right make people think the job's easy, invisible work. If you've ever juggled Defense Department deadlines, while some 26-year-old with crypto fantasies renames your security protocols because they lack synergy, then yeah, we'd get along just fine. I built that entire compliance backbone from the first DoD audit warning we ever got to the moment we were finally cleared to handle classified navigation systems without a Pentagon babysitter breathing down our necks. I wrote the protocols, managed the clearance chain, and most importantly, held the ITAR device that certified every official export transaction. Literally a black thumb drive about the size of a car key that could make or break entire military contracts. You lose it or assign it wrong and your whole operation goes dark. Guess who always knew exactly where it was? But I didn't play golf with executives, didn't network at industry mixers, never learned to smile when some board member's kid told me compliance was just glorified paperwork. I stayed focused, not because I was shy, because I was efficient. I documented things nobody asked for. I quietly fixed problems people didn't know existed. I scheduled security updates the company wasn't even required to do yet. That made me dangerous. When the founder stepped down, the nepotism wave hit like a tsunami. Enter Brandon Kessler, blonde, loud, terrifyingly confident in his ignorance and freshly minted VP of Strategy. His resume was an MBA from Wharton and Daddy's checkbook. His first move was turning our documentation system into what he called a digital transformation ecosystem, and bringing in consultants who charged $500 an hour to delete things that actually mattered. Brandon scheduled alignment sessions at 7:30 a.m. wearing Ray-Bans indoors and once asked if we could just slack the Pentagon. I'm not making this up. He installed a kombucha bar on the executive floor but refused to approve new security software for the classified systems. Then he started his culture evolution. Suddenly, longtime employees became legacy workforce. Teams got flattened, middle management disappeared, and me, the guy who literally held the company's federal export key, got informed through a cheerful HR Slack bot that my role was transitioning to external consulting opportunities. At first I thought maybe I'd finally catch a break. Maybe I'd teach shop class or open a garage that fixed classic cars. I offered to train someone on the compliance systems, walked into Brandon's office with a complete handover packet I'd spent 3 weekends preparing. You know what he said? "That's not your wheelhouse anymore, Tom." Didn't even look up from his phone. "Legal would handle it," he said. The same legal department that once misspelled classified in a federal filing and tried to email a security certificate. I had 2 choices: leave quietly like some ghost who never mattered, or finish this the way I'd lived the rest of my career, methodically, precisely, and with documentation that would outlast the people trying to erase it. Because here's the thing about being invisible in this business. It lets you walk past every security checkpoint without anyone asking questions. And when Brandon sent me that message, "Handle my logistics meeting. You're still on payroll until 5. I didn't get angry. I just opened my desk drawer and looked at that little black device, still warm in its protective case. Nobody had claimed it. Nobody had even asked about it. So I took it home. Brandon glided into his new role like he was modeling for a LinkedIn success story. Day 1, as VP of Strategy, he was already redecorating the conference room because the furniture gave him military-industrial complex vibes. Replaced our standard issue table with some reclaimed wood monstrosity that looked like it belonged in a craft brewery, not a company handling classified defense contracts. Nobody said anything because his last name was on the building. The first reorganization memo was titled Apex 3.0 Culture Evolution. Unless you worked in finance, HR, or God help you, regulatory compliance. Whole departments got decentralized. Managers with 15+ years of clearance disappeared into closed-door transition conversations. I sat through meetings where Brandon used phrases like disruptive velocity while discussing our weapons guidance protocols. He called our security servers legacy clutter and wanted to migrate everything to some cloud platform his fraternity brother designed. I asked what kind of DoD validation this new platform had. His response, it's blockchain native and quantum encrypted. We're good. Good. Like Chernobyl was good. The kid didn't know what an ITAR audit was. He thought export controls were anti-competitive red tape. He approved vendor contracts without checking security clearances. He asked legal to rewrite our Pentagon partnership agreements to be less bureaucratic. Yet somehow I was the one they decided to phase out. I wasn't even called into an office. Got pinged by one of those chirpy HR bots saying, "Hey there, got 5 minutes to chat?" Like I was being invited for beers instead of gently pushed off a security cliff. The HR rep had that wide-eyed look people get when they're breaking up with someone who still pays half the rent. "We want to be transparent," she said. "Your role is evolving. We're looking at agile partners to handle compliance moving forward. You've been invaluable, of course." Invaluable. Corporate speak for please leave your badge and don't sue us. I asked if they had someone ready to take over ITAR custody. That's not a responsibility you hand off like ordering office supplies. It's federally audited, personally registered, and comes with potential criminal liability if mishandled. Her smile never wavered. Legal will take care of that transition. You don't need to worry about it anymore. I asked if they wanted documentation, a walkthrough, a transition plan, hell, even a phone call with the Pentagon liaison I'd worked with for 6 years. She just repeated it, "Not your concern anymore." That's when something dangerous clicked for me. They weren't just dismissing me. They had no clue what they were doing. Zero. They assumed someone somewhere would figure it out. That the system I'd built was like a microwave. Push buttons, food gets hot, don't worry about the inside. Brandon rolled into meetings with a MacBook he never opened and an energy drink that cost more than my lunch. He started bringing his crypto buddies to observe security briefings. One of them asked if we could gamify our clearance training. Another suggested we rebrand our controlled unclassified information protocols as something more market-friendly. I sat through every meeting like a ghost watching his own funeral. Then one day I logged into the federal compliance portal and saw something unbelievable. It still listed me as the active ITAR custodian. No updates, no new registrations, no official transfer filed. Despite everything, despite the Slack bots and the transition chats and the logistics requests, nobody had taken the one simple, legally required step to reassign the company's most critical security asset. That little black device in my drawer was still legally bound to me. I stared at the screen, my name glowing in the Federal Registry like a middle finger made of pixels. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I understood gravity doesn't care who's holding the balloon. Let go and it falls. And Brandon was already tugging at the string with both hands. I almost walked away clean. After that HR call, I drove home in silence, just the hum of my truck's engine and the kind of anger that doesn't explode, it simmers. I've been through layoffs before, watched entire floors get cleared by buzzwords and budget cuts. Eaten sheet cake in conference rooms while executives gave farewell speeches about exciting new chapters. I know the game. You swallow the insult, pack your coffee mug, and disappear before your dignity hits the floor. I even drafted an email, something professional, graceful. Attached a clean summary of active export licenses, pending security reviews, contact info for our DoD liaison, and step-by-step instructions for transferring the ITAR device. Screenshots, labeled folders, links to federal protocols. It was, if I say so myself, idiot-proof. And it sat in my drafts folder for 3 days. Not because I forgot to send it, but because nobody requested it. Instead, I got this gem. Handle my logistics meeting. You're still on payroll until 5. That was it. No greeting, no punctuation, just that smug assumption that I was his personal assistant. I was sitting in my cubicle, the same one where I'd built our export control framework from scratch, migrated classified systems across 3 facility upgrades, and prevented the same contractor's security violations 12 times in 1 quarter. I was being asked to handle logistics because I hadn't clocked out yet, because he could. The old me would have gritted my teeth, sent a passive-aggressive reply, and handled his meeting while seething quietly. But something shifted that day, not rage exactly, something colder, a switch flipping behind my eyes. I opened the drawer. There it was, the device still in its foam cradle like some sacred relic. I'd spent weeks trying to do the right thing, emailed legal twice about the reassignment protocol, asked to brief whoever was replacing me, offered to walk them through the custody process, even record a tutorial. They ghosted me completely. One paralegal finally replied, "Thanks, we'll handle this internally." That was 8 weeks ago. They never filed the transfer, never touched the documentation. So technically, legally, I still held the company's entire export compliance authority. I was the only person authorized to certify foreign sales, approve technology transfers, and validate classified partnerships. That little plastic device wasn't just a tool, it was the company's spine. Brandon didn't know that, but he was about to learn. I closed the drawer, didn't slam it, just let it click shut with quiet finality. Then I opened his message again, typed one word, "Sure," hit send. In that moment, I made a decision. Not to fight, not yet, but to stop cleaning up their mess. Let gravity work. Let the silence they loved so much finally echo back. Because when someone builds their empire on ignoring details, it only takes one forgotten chain of custody to make the whole thing collapse. My last day didn't start with fireworks, just a lukewarm shower, and the same khakis I'd worn my first day 9 years ago. I packed my desk plants into a cardboard box, grabbed my Navy coffee mug, and headed in one final time. Walking through those doors felt wrong, not sad exactly, just wrong, like wearing someone else's clothes. The lobby had that Friday energy, people arguing over conference rooms, someone microwaving fish at 9 a.m., Brandon's laugh echoing from the executive suite about something involving blockchain and disruption. Perfect. In my bag was an envelope with my ID badge, security card, and office keys. I'd labeled everything like I was shipping medical equipment. But what wasn't in that envelope was the ITAR device, wrapped carefully in my jacket pocket. The official procedure, per my own policy, required logging the reassignment through the federal portal, submitting notarized transfer documents, and updating custody credentials through 4 different databases. None of that had happened because nobody had bothered to ask. I'd given them every opportunity. I really had. But they were too busy hosting vision boarding retreats and installing kombucha taps. It was 11:45 a.m. when I walked into the HR suite. Brandon was standing by the glass partition, leaning against it like he was posing for a magazine nobody would read, sunglasses on his head again. "Leaving so soon?" he said without turning around. I held up the envelope. "Badge and keys, all yours." He gave me that dismissive smile. "Cool, just drop it anywhere. You'll get your exit survey via email. No handshake, no eye contact. Fine by me. I wasn't here for gratitude." As I turned to leave, he stopped me halfway. "Oh, and can you clean out your shared folders before you go? We're streamlining." His voice had that entitled float to it. I nodded, smiled, then walked back to my desk one last time. I took a final look around. The desk where I'd sat through 3 fiscal audits, 2 security investigations, and 1 false alarm lockdown. I logged out, closed my laptop, slid it into its case. Then I stood up, device in pocket, no fanfare. But in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in months. Not pride, clarity. Up until then, I'd played by their rules, tried to help, tried to make sure they wouldn't screw up too badly. But they didn't want help. They wanted results without responsibility. Now they were going to learn the difference. I walked past Brandon's desk on my way out. He was mid-giggle, bragging to someone about streamlining compliance into a one-click solution. I paused, not long, just enough to watch him bask in his ignorance. Then I left through the turnstiles, out the door into the crisp Alabama morning. The device pressed lightly against my chest, still registered, still active, still entirely mine. For the first time since they'd started pushing me out, I felt nothing. Not anger, not bitterness, just a clean line drawn in the sand. They wouldn't see it today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when they did, I'd be nowhere near the fallout. They say the devil's in the details. At Apex Defense Technologies, the devil wore designer sunglasses and called himself a paradigm disruptor. In the weeks after I left, the company barreled ahead like a drunk driver with cruise control. Brandon, fully unleashed, ran the place like his personal startup fantasy. One day he was onboarding a growth hacker from Silicon Valley. The next he was filming a facility tour for his LinkedIn series about military industrial innovation. I heard most of this through the network. See, when you quietly save people from federal audits for 9 years, you make allies. Quiet ones. Accountants who'd seen too many forced contract cancellations. Engineers who knew what a misfiled export license could do to a project timeline. A guy named Rodriguez in IT who once spent an entire weekend rebuilding our submission server after someone tried to install a gaming app on it. People like that remember who had their back when legal was too busy with merger documents to notice the urgency. So I got updates, not gossip, intelligence, like how legal was buried in partnership agreements for a European expansion to check the compliance handover, how Brandon approved migration of classified nav data to that shiny new platform without a single validation test, how he signed off on 3 international contracts with documentation still marked draft, the kind of thing that gets your entire operation flagged. I didn't celebrate, not yet, but it was like watching a slow gas leak under your house. You don't root for the explosion, but you sure notice when the detector starts beeping. The real turning point came 4 weeks after I left. Rodriguez forwarded me a photo. No subject line, no message, just a screenshot of a signature page. Brandon's loopy scribble under the title, Acting ITAR Custodian. I stared at it, then laughed out loud in my empty kitchen. It wasn't bitter laughter, it was light, freeing, because there it was, the final beautiful screw-up. He had signed export documents, filed them, sent them to international partners under a title he had zero legal authority to claim. According to the Federal Registry, I was still the only authorized custodian, which meant every signature he'd made wasn't just invalid, it was potentially criminal. And the best part? He had no idea. Because when I'd offered to train someone on the reassignment process, HR said, "That's not your concern anymore." So I didn't make it my concern, I just watched. Brandon kept posting on social media, captioning filtered photos from our secure facility with lines like, "Building tomorrow's defense solutions" and military plane emojis. The board was either too drunk on expansion dreams or too intimidated to question the golden boy. Legal was drowning in partnership clauses. It was rebooting systems every Tuesday because the new platform didn't play nice with actual Pentagon requirements. But me? I was sleeping through the night for the first time in years, drinking good coffee, working on my truck. That bittersweet calm they talk about, the kind that comes after you've tried everything. The warnings, the documentation, the ignored emails, and finally realize the only thing left is to let the match fall and walk away before anyone smells smoke. The moment I saw Brandon's fake title under that signature, I closed my laptop and smiled. Not wide, not vindictive, just enough. Because gravity had been pulling this whole time and now his hands were full of the wrong thing and nobody, not a single person, had bothered to check what he'd dropped. The meeting that never happened was scheduled for 10 a.m. sharp. Compliance wrap-up, I called it in the calendar invite. Just formal enough to make HR nervous. They didn't like anything with wrap-up unless it came with approved talking points and a feedback form. I'd sent it 5 days ahead, CC'd everyone, Brandon, HR, legal, even Rodriguez, who replied with a gif of someone saluting. Nobody confirmed, nobody declined, just silence. Still, I dressed like I was testifying before Congress. Navy slacks, white shirt, hair combed, the kind of outfit that makes people assume you're holding something important, even when all you've got is a stapler. Except this time, I wasn't holding a stapler. I had the device. It sat in a leather case in my briefcase, cushioned between my exit paperwork and a protein bar I wouldn't eat. 10:03, empty room. 10:06, still empty. I opened my laptop and logged into the Federal Registry one more time. There it was, my name still glowing in the custodian field. 9 years of documented access, certifications, export approvals, the complete lineage of a security program built from Navy precision and duct tape. No reassignment, not even pending paperwork. 10:15. Brandon finally showed up, but I could hear his voice floating from the bullpen like a podcast host who forgot to turn off his mic. I stepped out of the conference room. He was holding court near the coffee station, explaining to someone from marketing why we needed to gamify our security protocols. He spotted me and smiled with that performative brightness executives use when they can't remember your name. "Oh, hey, Tom," he said, raising 2 fingers like a peace sign. "Can you handle that logistics thing we discussed?" Like this was still about meeting coordination. Like I wasn't holding the company's federal backbone in my briefcase. I didn't flinch, didn't explain, just walked over, slow and purposeful. Pulled out the leather case, opened it. The padding caught the fluorescent light. Professional, serious, official. I reached in and took out the device. It looked so harmless, like a car remote or a garage door opener. But inside that plastic shell was the cryptographic authority for every classified contract Apex had signed in the past 6 years. I held it in my palm, extended it toward him. He looked at it like I was handing him a flash drive. "What's this?" "The key," I said. "You asked me to handle things." He shrugged and took it without thinking, dropping it onto the nearest desk like pocket change. Turned back to marketing and said something about needing more disruptive visuals for our government proposals. Just like that, it happened. Chain of custody broken. No witnesses, no paperwork, no formal reassignment, just a clueless executive accepting a federal security device without authorization in full view of a workspace that thought it was office equipment. I turned and walked away. Didn't explain, didn't remind him that the moment his fingers closed around that device, he'd become the functional ITAR custodian in the eyes of anyone watching. And without proper transfer documentation, that's a violation. A real one. I headed toward the exit. Rodriguez caught my eye from the IT section, raised an eyebrow. I just nodded. Calm, precise. Let it land. Because some bombs don't tick, they just sit there humming until someone notices the sound. 3 hours later, the humming turned to sirens. I was home, feet up, watching a History Channel documentary about World War II submarines. My phone was silent, laptop closed, inbox empty by choice. But somewhere back at Apex Defense, the reckoning had begun. The first flag was probably routine, a failed authentication on an export certification upload. Maybe the Pentagon system bounced back a contract filing because the attached credentials didn't match the active custodian. Whatever it was, hit legal like a mortar round through a glass house. Rodriguez gave me the play-by-play later. It started with a paralegal casually checking the day's submission logs, routine due diligence. Then she saw it. The signature on an international contract was Brandon's, but the registered custodian per federal database was still me. 6 weeks post-resignation. She blinked, checked again. Same result. Flagged her supervisor. The supervisor flagged general counsel. Someone pulled Brandon into a side office, and that's where things went full meltdown. Brandon walked in holding the device like a dead mouse, apparently unaware that Rodriguez had upgraded the conference room's audio system personally. "I thought it was symbolic," he said. "Tom literally just handed it to me." Someone in legal went pale. "Tell me you're joking," they muttered. He shrugged. "Why? What is this thing?" The senior attorney tried damage control. "Did you sign anything? Submit any documents with that credential?" "Yeah," Brandon said. "Several contracts and that NATO partnership agreement." Dead silence. Then someone swore loud enough to echo across the building. They pulled up the Federal Registry again. Still active. Thomas J. Brennan, ITAR custodian. 0 updates, 0 pending transfers, which meant every document Brandon signed using that device was unauthorized. Worse, fraudulent. Each submission carried timestamps tied to credentials he didn't legally possess. The compliance portal flagged the breach automatically. All active contracts were suspended pending investigation. Pentagon auditors were notified. Current projects froze. The $95 million drone navigation contract, their biggest deal, was immediately placed under federal review. Funding streams paused. Partner agreements were invalidated. By the time the board heard, the building was metaphorically burning. Emergency calls, legal reviews, HR panic, PR lockdown. Brandon locked himself in the glass conference room, probably Googling what is ITAR compliance without looking panicked. Too late. The device wasn't just equipment, it was a mirror. And when they finally looked into it, all they saw was their own negligence staring back in high definition. Brandon's security clearance was revoked by end of day. Criminal investigation opened by week's end. His father, calling from an emergency board meeting in D.C., had one question. "You let my son accept a federal security device without due process?" Click. Call ended. 6 months later, I got a call. Pentagon wanted me back. Chief Compliance Officer, 40% salary bump, full pension protection. Seems they valued someone who followed procedures even when nobody was watching. Especially when nobody was watching. Brandon? Last I heard, he was selling crypto courses online. Something about disrupting traditional career paths. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sometimes the best revenge is just stepping back and letting gravity work. These days, I sleep through the night, my coffee tastes better, and I finally fixed that transmission on my truck. Turns out when you stop cleaning up other people's mess, you have time to take care of your own. My daughter calls more often now that I'm not stressed all the time, and my pension's secure for the first time in years. The new job's good too. Younger engineers actually listen when I explain why we do things a certain way. Amazing what a little respect can do for your disposition. I even play golf now, not with executives, just with Rodriguez and some other guys who know the difference between cutting corners and cutting throats. Some folks ask if I feel bad about what happened to Apex. Truth is, I sleep just fine. I followed every rule, offered every helping hand, documented every warning. They made their choices. I just stopped making mine for them.